Welcome to Real Estate You with Lettiann.
Hey, welcome back to Real Estate You with Lettiann. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of not only your title insurance, but your title policy when you close at the closing table or with your attorney if you're watching from out of state. So today I have Kadie Ryherd with me with First American Title. She's an escrow officer and in Overland Park, Kansas. And good morning, Kadie.
Good morning.
We're going to talk to you today about the importance of title, because I don't think people truly understand why am I having to purchase a title insurance policy? And that's typically purchased by the seller. Is that correct?
The owner's policy is typically purchased for the buyer by the seller.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying. So it's the owner's policy. Let's start at the beginning. So when one secures a property, and of course, in Kansas and Missouri, we do not use attorneys for closing, just title companies. So again, if you're watching from out of state, we escrow with only the title company. So once a property is secured, and of course we send you our contract and all of that information, your next step is to investigate title and tell us.
To begin.
Yeah, that's the first step. So tell us the why behind that and the importance of looking through what's happening with the title.
So as soon as we get your contract, we begin our title search. It's pretty important. Most people you're spending a lot of money on a property. And if there's any liens or judgments or anything like that could come back down the road after you bought it, we're going to take care of that. And so we're going to find anything like that on the property, any mortgages, and we're going to make sure that all of those are paid off so that there's no liens on the property whenever it goes into title under the new buyer's name. If by some chance something down the road shows up that we didn't catch, then we're liable, not you. And it ultimately saves the buyer, could save you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars.
The buyer, if there's any hiccups. So you typically send that to the real estate professional. So you'll send like, for example, if I sent you a contract, you would eventually soon thereafter send me the title policy. And if there's any,
we would send you a title commitment, which is kind of prelim to the policy.
Thank you. So you're sending the real estate professional a title commitment. It's up to that professional. Even if you saw some red flags, you generally don't call them out. You wouldn't call me and say, hey, there's a lien and they haven't paid their homeowner's insurance or homeowner's HOA dues for 6 years. Or something like that. That's up to the real estate professional to read through that title commitment. Is that correct?
Most real estate agents and lenders have been in this business and they can see when something's going to cause an issue on the property. Right. So yes, most of the time it's not in our hands to say, hey, you should think about this. Mm-hmm. That is definitely probably the real estate agent's professional opinion to let the buyer know at that point.
Or the seller even at that, because the seller needs to remedy those outstanding liens and whatnot. But typically what's on there is maybe they have 1 or 2 mortgages on the property that would need to be satisfied. And there might be a couple of other things that need satisfied, which is pretty typical. Do you suggest that policy actually being sent to buyer and to the seller just so they're completely aware of everything?
I don't see any harm in the buyer and seller seeing it to begin the process, just so that they have kind of an ease of, their mind is eased to see that, hey, there's no judgments, there's no delinquent taxes. Everything should go smoothly from this point. So to me personally, I don't see a problem with sending it to the buyer and the seller.
What's the craziest thing, just for grins, that you've ever seen? And I know you came from an abstract state. That sounds funny. I'm not calling anyone from Oklahoma abstract. But what that means is old school style, right? They're literally in a book that's handwritten, which I think I would love to. Can you imagine? Did you look way back into how far back did it go? 1800s, 1700s?
Yeah, they're so much fun to read. I mean, they go back from, and especially in Oklahoma, because it's so much Indian land. So it goes way back to when the Indians owned it. And no offense, sorry. It's cool. It's history.
It is.
I mean, you get to read about how the property was passed down and the process and anything that came to, any liens, any judgments that came up on the property during it. And it's just a book. It's a bound book. And some of the books, the pages are so old that they're brown and really flimsy. I find it cool.
I would imagine that the way the English is written is really interesting as well. Like even in the 1700s, 1800s, how they wrote, because they're English, you know what I mean? And I don't mean English, but anyway, you're fortunate that you get to see one of those. I think I was at a property in Kansas City off of Red Bridge Road that they had the original abstract from that property that they've just kept in that property. And it's funny, if Oklahoma is still, so it's not electronic at all? Or,
to my knowledge, there are still two states. It's Oklahoma and I can't tell you what other state it is that are still abstract states. And so nothing is electronic. You have to order the abstract. As soon as you get the contract, you order the abstract. It comes from an abstract plant. And then your attorney or your underwriters actually look through it.
That's
and
wild.
Try to go of the last title policy. Just to make sure that nothing is missed.
That's so cool.
It's pretty cool.
I was thinking those have to be kept in some type of secured place or like a humidor, or, I don't know.
Yep.
It
has to be like a climate controlled room.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's the craziest thing you may have ever seen? What's something, you probably can't say, because oftentimes somebody might be in a bankruptcy situation, or oftentimes somebody might owe a lot of people money that could go on and on for pages. But is there anything ever weird or interesting, like somebody owes somebody a giraffe that they never paid for? Or
I don't think I've ever come across stuff like that. I have came across where owners weren't aware of judgments that were $50,000 that they owed. And so that is something that we find, and they either pay it or they don't sell the property. So that is something that we stop from going onto the buyer's name. So that I would say would probably be good. We are a marital state, which means that you can buy the property as a single person, but you have to sell or deed out with your spouse if you're married. So I did have a property where they were still married and the wife tried to sell the property even though it was only in her name. And then I guess her husband ran off to Vegas or something.
Oh, boy.
And she couldn't get him to sign. So
she got him to sign?
She couldn't get him to. So that's the kind of stuff that we find, and make sure that she's not just deeding out inappropriately without him.
So did she try to fake that she wasn't married, but that you guys found out she was?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
I would imagine heirs.
We come across some cool stuff.
Yeah. Heirs too, because there could be heirs from, 2 generations ago that heir that was 2 years old is now maybe 60 years. I don't know. And you have to find that heir to sign off on the property. So,
normally that goes through probate. Like if someone is deceased and then it has to go through probate, then the probate will normally find the heirs. But like you're saying, to find the heirs and make sure everyone is aware that they hold title.
Yeah. I've seen that like on 100-year-old properties that have been in the same family where original heirs had died, in 1920. And anyway, it's cool stuff, title, but it's really important as well. So after we get the title commitment and the real estate professional reads over it and be sure, lets all parties know if there's anything of concern. We know that the seller purchases the title insurance policy for the buyer. Is that correct?
Most times. There are specific times where a seller can opt out of paying for it, but for the most part, it's stated in the contract. So if the seller signs the contract where it states that, then they do purchase it.
And it's pretty typical, right?
Yeah.
And tell us the importance of title insurance policy and why that seller is purchasing that to transfer title to the buyer.
So if you buy a property and like I said, you're spending a lot of money when you're buying a house. So you buy the property and then 10 years down the road, someone comes and says, there's this judgment that needs paid and it's attached to your property. Well, you pull that policy. And if we didn't find it, then we're the ones that are going to be liable instead of the buyer themselves. So you pay this one-time premium for title insurance to us, but that also protects you down the road. So if like I said, a judgment pops up and someone's trying to come at you to get the money, you're going to come to us and we're going to take care of it.
And that actually covers buyer, which would be the new owner. And then, of course, the seller who's, long gone. If anything should arise, that's curious after that, right? You guys take care of that.
We protect the buyer and the lender, make sure that the lender's mortgage is in first lien position so that nothing will come before their mortgage. And then, like I said, the buyer.
What other things the common person, the consumer may not know? The importance of title that doesn't get talked about, that we have about 5 minutes left here that we could share with them, because oftentimes they don't understand, why am I paying these fees? What's an escrow closing fee, and all of that. So
a lot of people don't see exactly what we do. They see the real estate agent finds them the house, the contract, and then there's 30 to 60 day period normally, where they just wait and then they work with the lender. We actually work directly with the real estate agents, with the lenders, anyone else involved, just to try to keep the buyer and seller out of it as much as possible, just to kind of not put so much stress on them. So we're kind of the middleman there, but at the most, we're searching these properties. We're making sure that the buyers are protected, that nothing's going to come up later on down the road that could hurt them financially. It's very important. Being a millennial, I have a lot of friends that just bought a house actually, and they all have came to me and they didn't understand it either. So it's kind of cool to just say, we're here to protect you. That's our
kind of sums it up in a nutshell, the importance of your escrow officer, because you really bring it all together and tie up all the loose ends to be sure we're closing on time. And of course, you then pay the seller's mortgage off. So oftentimes people are like, do I need to write a check or what I owe? And the beauty of it is you handle all of that. You do all of the transacting behind the scenes. Really, no money is actually changing hands except for perhaps cashier's check from the buyer, or something like that. Any crazy story from Oklahoma or anything wild, that you don't have to mention any names. Hopefully mine won't be included in that, for craziness at the closing table or anything?
I mean, we do have stuff that comes up last minute at the closing tables that we don't like to see, such as, well, we will have sellers come in and we think that they're single the whole time, and they come to closing table and we find out that they're married, and then we have to get the spouse in. That can change things. Craziness, we try to keep it pretty calm, I guess.
No big fights at the closing table or anything. It's
not
normally,
really.
Yeah, it's normally a beautiful time, right? Everybody's happy and grateful that the stress is over.
It's a good time to sit down at that table with the buyers and finally put faces to names and make everyone happy. So for the most part.
And you do that. So I appreciate you and all of you guys at First American Title in Overland Park, Kansas. And if you have any questions for Kadie, her information will be on the screen. You'll be able to reach her. And if you like the content that you're watching here, please tune in to our YouTube channel and subscribe so you don't miss any of these episodes or the content and the value that we're wanting to provide you, the consumer. So, and that is Lettiann and Associates Real Estate Services. That's our YouTube handle. And we welcome you follow us on our socials, Instagram, we're even on Pinterest, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So, Kadie, thank you so much. I so appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you and all the great people there at First American Title at my next closing.
Thanks for having us.
All right. See you again soon.
Bye.